Got it. There's my bio.
Okay. Blah, 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 blah. 2 good men. I got it. All right. No, in Arkansas.
Yep.
2 good men in Arkansas. That's all we're going to say about you. You could. I don't know what we're going to do. We're making this up as we go.
That is so easy to read.
I know.
You want me to hold it for you?
No. I love the 20-point type. You're my man. So if I was king, the first thing I'd do. Yeah. Hello. Hi. Welcome to the Liberty Theater. We're going to get started here momentarily. And there go the house lights. Thank you. Boy, right on cue. So my name is Gorda Euler. I'm half of Shanghai on the Willamette, and you'll hear more about us because as it turns out, we get to introduce ourselves here momentarily. Slight change in the schedule. The person that was supposed to open tonight is named Arthur Anderson, and I understand he's been dead for 20 years. So we're going to do a little bit of a change of plan. So there's going to be 2 acts basically in this 5 o'clock set. Us and my singing partner Jonathan in Shanghai. But first, you're going to get to hear from Ron McDaniel. So this is what he wrote right here.
We're going to introduce Ron, but he's going to introduce somebody who's on.
Yeah, but let me introduce him first. So Ron McDaniel is back for his 12th Fisher Poets, and he doesn't. Yeah, that's it. All right, good. You can clap for him in a minute. Let me read this. He and his wife Nancy.
We like him too.
He and his wife Nancy raise kids, foster kids, cattle, and horses. And as a testament to his cowboying skills, the cow boss at Adams Cattle Company said hiring Ron was like losing 2 good men. I'm sure he will explain that. So welcome from Sulphur Springs, Arkansas, Ron McDaniel.
Hey, you got a little treat before you have to listen to me, and I hope you'll help me give a really Fisher Poets live welcome for a friend of mine. She came here several years ago for her first Fisher Poets. She is a small animal veterinarian in Soldotna, Alaska, who is also a fisherman. She set nets in Cook Inlet. She fishes her father's permit, and where she fished with him growing up, and takes 6 weeks every summer to live the life that actually is who she is. And she has become an incredible voice for Fisher Poets. She's an incredible talent. This is a bonus for you that wasn't on the schedule here at the Liberty. You can see where else she's performing tonight. Don't leave immediately after her. I'd like for 3 or 4 of you to still be in here when I come back up. But please help me give a warm welcome to my friend and a great Fisher poet, Meezie Hermansen.
Some speak of a mythical creature residing in the deep, the dragon of the sea. Legend says this fire-breathing beast is so large that the sea boils when it swims near the surface. I've been out there when it feels like the dragon must be near, belching his flame. The water boils with whitecaps. The sea gathers itself into folds. Waves heap against the shore, and we bob on the surface, a mere morsel for a monstrous beast. This one's called Winter Dreams. It's winter in the great land, and the days are marked by nights. The skies are lit by dancing, crackling northern lights. The river ice is snapping like beasts busting through the timber. The cold cuts through my joints. They are much more stiff than limber. The fluttering aurora catch stars in a mesh of green. My thoughts start to wander as I survey the scene. The longer days of summer now compose my dreams with visions of the sockeyes return to natal streams. Nets flung across the water like these lights across this sky. Salmon hang like stars, flashing silver sides. The days are getting longer and soon I will be out there on the inlet, rocking on the seas. But it's still winter in the great land, and the days are marked by nights, and the skies are lit by dancing, crackling northern lights. So this is my last one I'll do. So Ron is kind of a friend, and kind of a I don't know what. He always gets me into situations. And so one year they dubbed him the sheriff of Fisher Poets, and since I'm always palling around with him, I got dubbed the deputy. And that may seem like an honorable thing, but the plucky sidekick never makes it through an episode unscathed. And basically, I am his Festus. So one year he wrote one that was comparing the lives of fishermen and cowboys, and there's a lot of similarities. When I was in vet school, most of my friends were ranch kids because it's a very similar upbringing. But there are, a little bit of differences too. And so I wrote this one. It's called Cowboys and Fishermen. I've always thought of cowboys as our landlocked brothers, though me, I'd always choose the sea if I had my druthers. Both are known to toil away in the great outdoors, cowboys upon the land, fishermen along the shores. There are boundless comparisons one could try to make. As for the differences, I'll be brief for your sake. I've never rode a bucking bull, but I've bucked an angry tide. No disrespect, I merely state 'twas no 8-second ride.
I was right, wasn't I? Meezie Hermansen, folks. I'm going to try to recite all my poetry, not because I'm that brilliant with an incredible memory, but being from Arkansas, it's usually easier than reading. But I did print out one of my poems here because I realized, I get to go perform in a lot of places that have a different culture than I do. I get to perform for a lot of urban audiences. I get to perform for Fisher Poets, and most of you know quite a bit about the cowboy lifestyle now, but sometimes I have to explain a few things, just like, I'm still learning after 12 years to understand all the nautical terms. So for you to understand this poem, just a couple of things. Sadly, it was incredibly true. And what happened was several years ago, I was hired with a friend of mine to go to a guest horseback riding ranch. And unlike some of those places where they have the horses that you rent and you stay in real nice lodging, this was more for horse enthusiasts who just wanted a place to camp together and a place that had a big kitchen so they wouldn't have to cook all the time, and that had several thousand acres where they could ride. And so a couple hundred people would come out with their horses, and several times a summer in this outfit, Golden Hills Riding Resort in southern Missouri, they hired me and a friend of mine to spend several days with their guests. So they'd want us to go to ride with them during the day. Very few of their guests were cowboys. They were mostly trail riders and such. They had a little herd of cows, and they wanted us to kind of teach them how to herd cows and some of those things. And my friend was a very accomplished colt starter. And if you don't know what that means, when a young horse, 2 or 3 years old, gets his first few rides. A colt starter's really handy in getting him started right. And in fact, my friend Kurt was hired by Robert Redford. If any of you saw the movie The Horse Whisperer, okay? And if you hadn't, go see that movie. It's a good movie. And the other thing you probably need to know about this that would make some sense to you, I'm trying to just think of any other terms. A green broke horse. So if we say something's a green broke horse, that's a horse that has not had very many rides put on him. He's still pretty fresh. He's still got a hump in his back. And that's probably enough that you need to know about this story called Not the Quitting Kind. My sense of cowboy chivalry often gets me into trouble, usually resulting in my ego bursting like a bubble. A woman's horse was bothered, all lathered in a sweat. 120 days of training, they said, but not a finished horse just yet. Can you ride him, sir? Can you ride him, sir? She asked. Well, if he's got hair, I can. But the horse I put my saddle on sure had a different plan. Now, hindsight's 20/20, and I'll admit I didn't use my head. Why lead him to the round pen? I'll just ride him there instead. So I saddle him up and I step on. I'll show this horse who's boss. But this wasn't just a spoiled horse. This was a bucking hoss. I felt I had a good grip on my rope strap, felt I had a real good start, but when that rope strap broke, well, that's when things came apart. Well, I gave it all I had, trying not to hit the ground, but I was kind of getting dizzy from his bucking all around. Folks that saw it tell me I put on quite a ride, but I knew I was beat with every bucking stride. See, he was getting stronger with every jump and kick, and I was getting weaker. I knew I'd never make it stick. Well, I hit the ground real hard and kind of got up in a daze. What happened next is lost on me, still in a cloudy haze. See, the story from this point forward, well, it had to be told to me because the next 3 hours of my life were like a blank CD. Instinct took over at this point, all wisdom shoved aside. Why, a cowboy can't quit on such an unsuccessful ride, so I catch that horse and check the cinch. I'm going to give it another go. Well, that's when Kurt walked up and said, "Hey, hold my horse. We'll use the bucker for the show." Well, what he thought I'd do is his plan was to keep me off the bucker without the sense of force. I didn't realize I was holding on to just kind of an ornery green broke horse. He thought I'd lead his horse along, keep my dignity and pride, but instinct says you never walk if you've got a horse to ride. So I mounted him like a drunk man, still in a daze, you see. My 6'4" friend's saddle allowed my feet to dangle free. That horse decided right there to get me off his back, and after a few good chumps, I soon departed from the tack. I hit the ground again, kind of landed in a heap. My state of mind was in between consciousness and asleep. I failed the mental faculties test, which is a complicated game with questions like, what day is this, and can you say your name? So they strapped me to a backboard, though I insisted there was no need. Well, they felt this would keep me from climbing on another steed. Their examination had revealed I'm not the quitting kind, and restraint they felt would keep me from mounting any horse that I could find. So if you see this cowboy take a tumble from the sky, keep in mind I'm short on brains, but very long on try. I'm going to climb on something. My mind has just one track. So just lead me to the tack room and help me mount a saddle rack. The cattle industry, we're coming out of a pretty rough period. It was just a few years ago that we had the smallest cow herd that the United States nation has had in 50 years. and it's now stabilized. So every year, we had fewer cows, but we've stabilized that now, and the beef business is going to be healthy again, I think, pretty soon. But it's challenging, right? You have to be adaptable. You have to be willing to make changes in your life, no matter what it is that you do for a living. And this is a poem about, hey, we do what we have to do, right, to take care of our families, to earn a living. And so this is a poem titled "The Cat Wrangler." I've cowboyed over 40 years now, but change is coming rapidly, my friend. Why, the puncher that can't adopt to a new way of life will soon see his cowboying days come to an end. With the cattle herd shrinking as ranches disappear, the unemployment line lengthens for guys wearing hats. So in order to keep biscuits and beans on my table, I become a wrangler of cats. Now, you can't be thin-skinned to be a cat herder, with no historic songs about you to be sung. I was once thought to be the strong, silent type. Now folks snicker and say, "Cat got your tongue?" I once freely rode the wide-open plains. Now I prowl the streets in the city. I once boldly sang the lone cowboy's song. Now I shamefully call, "Here, kitty, kitty." So I've hired on with an outfit called the Alley Cat Allies as their cat sheriff. Some call me the feline police. I use my cowboying skills to track these furry little strays where I catch them, then neuter and release. Oh, neutering cats is more dangerous than castrating bulls, with no modern equipment like the cattle squeeze chute. Why, a cowboy takes his life into his very own hands when he catches a cat and then puts him in his boot. Why, this life takes its toll on a cowboy. I've broken up dozens and dozens of cat fights. I'm allergic to cat hair and dander. I've stopped counting all the scratches and bites. But last week, I cornered a dangerous tomcat. Ah, the tails changed on you, Mr. Cat, I've quipped. As I unfurled my whip, I laughed as I said, "How's it feel to be the one who's now kitty whipped?" It was noisy and violent, one heck of a battle. There'd be just one victor. Would it be him or me? Well, I'll let you decide as I stand boldly before you while he's off licking himself where his balls used to be. So my tale is a tale of cowboy persistence over those who teased me and were in cahoots. But now when I walk down the Astoria sidewalk, they reverently step aside and say, "Make way for old Puss in Boots." Hey, I'm gonna do one more poem for you, and I want my pards with Shanghaied on the Willamette. You be ready to come up here after this and entertain us with some of your great music. And but I'm gonna wrap up my portion of this set with my gift to you. I'm looking out in the audience, and I'm seeing a lot of you with your sweetheart. How many of you are sitting right next to your sweetheart? Jim, you better raise your hand, Jim. I don't know what might have gone on this afternoon, but just let it go and raise your hand up high. So a lot of you are here with your sweetheart, right? And so this is going to be my gift to you. You know, I do a lot of shtick and a lot of humorous poetry, but there's a softer side to me, and I think I'm gonna do a romantic poem for you. And a lot of people have their stereotype of what cowboys are. They've developed that from the movies and TV, right? If you haven't gotten to meet real cowboys, all you know about the cowboy lifestyle is what you've seen in the movies. And in the movies, the cowboy always gets the lady, and He's always suave and debonair. He's always really smooth when it comes to romance. And my wife would tell you there is nothing further from the truth about cowboys. And let me draw an analogy for you. I wrestled with how do you draw analogies for fisher poets when you don't know as much about fishing. So I'll maybe draw an analogy we can all relate to. Cowboys and romance go together like the Amish and NASCAR, okay? It's just not that ideal fit, right? And I think the reason for that is there's never been a fairy tale written for cowboys, right? I mean, fairy tales. Who are the characters in fairy tales? It's damsels in distress, handsome princes, fair maidens. There's never some guy named Chester that walks bow-legged with a limp that rescues the barmaid in the fairy tale. And so I think I've written the first cowboy fairy tale, and it's my parting gift to you to help this evening start out on a romantic note. So my gift to you, a cowboy fairy tale. A puncher's life can be lonely, just the cows, his horse, and his dog. So I bring you this tale of magical romance, like the kiss that transformed the frog. Now, Ronaldo was a man among men, but with the ladies he was painfully shy, a top hand at all things cowboy, yet with love he feared even to try. Well, the puncher wasn't homely nor ugly, but neither was he confused with Prince Charming. And the odds of finding a princess in this western land, while not impossible, they were certainly alarming. But fate threw a princess into his life when he rescued her from a runaway horse. It propelled them into that chain of events toward love, the unstoppable force. Like the wobbly steps of a newborn calf, her smile made him weak in the knees. Why, Ronaldo backed down from no man, but with her, he would do as she pleased. Like the sirens in the epic poem Odyssey, she had mystical, womanly powers. Why, Ronaldo had no more control of his heart than a cow's sphincter does when she has the scours. He was not the same man. He was love-struck. She had changed him deep down in his soul. He started gelling his hair and wearing cologne. He even snipped the long hair from his mole. He gave up cards, tobacco, and whiskey while he'd give up breathing for his sweet prairie rose. And he did it all so happily, even merrily, not minding the ring in his nose. So he bent to a knee and asked her to marry him. Oh, she'd bring him such joy and laughter, but the whole world stopped when she said no. And Ronaldo lived happily ever after. Thank you.